Hello, everybody. Larry Young here again with another segment of OLaMan, Living Life with Purity. And today I want to talk about something that affects all of our families at some point in our lives. If your family avoids this, lucky for you, blessings to your gene pool. But what I want to talk about is the growing influence of dementia in our world with our population. Now, we all went through a rather evidentiary review with our most recent president, Joe Biden. And we saw basically an in-time, degradation of his cognitive abilities. We saw it playing out right in front of us. Now, a lot of people lied about what was going on. They covered up for him. And that was a conspiracy, and that's bad, and people need to pay for that because that is a huge breakdown in the trust and what we need to have as far as confidence in our government and what we want to call about the threats to democracy, as so many people want to talk about. As far as threats to democracy in this country in the last 250 years, aside from the Civil War, which really wasn't a threat to democracy, but the threat to democracy was the veiling and the cover-up that went on with Joe Biden's dementia. We saw a lot of this happen with FDR back during World War II, and with people trying to cover up his frailties. This has been gone through. It's been done in the past. It's harder to keep it covered up these days. But this is one of the reasons you really can't trust the media and you can't trust the people talking to you many times. And that's why I think the advent of these podcasts and things like this with independent people to be able to talk about tough topics that the mainstream media and the talking heads won't talk about because either they find it to be politically inconvenient or against their earnings ratios. So everyone's out to make a buck. Let's not forget about that. The last of the great American heroes died with Superman. So I think he died in one of the storylines. I don't know. Have to check in on that. But dementia is on the rise. So maybe that's for me too. And I'm not just talking about physically, but I'm talking about socially as well. But on the physical side, the numbers are rising increasingly with speed, faster and faster onset of dementia in our population. Now, maybe this is just because it's being diagnosed at this point with this population because the science is getting more defined, or it could be that there's something in our environment. There's our food. We have to question all these things that came out of General Mills over the last 80 years. What's in that stuff? And why did they hire all these, scientists from the tobacco industry who wanted to create these addictions? And that's why you have so many people addicted to things like even Pringles potato chips. There's a reason that they have on the carton of Pringles potato chips to say, once you pop, you can't stop, because they've added some sort of chemical to it that makes it attractive to the taste buds in the brain to have another one, have another one, have another one. It's like crack. I don't eat those things, but I understand they're quite addictive. But anyway, so the physical dementia screenings and diagnoses here in the United States, it's gone up almost 45%. 45% since 1975. Now, I think that has a lot to do with the number of diagnoses that are happening with the doctors and neurologists and all like that going on. So they're looking for it more, and they're diagnosing it, they're prescribing it, they're medicating it. So they found a way to monetize it. And so that's one reason that the numbers are growing up. And possibly we just had so many undiagnosed people in our families, and we just covered up for them and say, oh, Grandpa's at it again, telling his stories, and just kind of smiled and walked away and figured that's just part of aging, which it is. So we got this physical dementia that's going on, and many of you may know or may not know, my dear mother, Rita, is 100 years old. And we started services with in-house nursing and hospice to come in and just keep an eye on her. She's not at that point just yet, but we're realizing, time is going to take its toll and things can happen, and you need to have a preparation plan. You can't just jump right into hospice. They have all sorts of things that they have to do ahead of time to qualify people, to make sure they got the right people taking care of the individual, all the proper things you'd expect. But as part of their weekly visit with us, they come by for 20, 30 minutes twice a week. And what they do is they just come in and check to make sure, how the physical is going on, which everything's fine there. And then they want to check to see how the mental is going on. So they will ask several, questions to, kind of see if they're up on their current events. They know what day it is. Are they aware of what's going on? Are they alert and active? I think is what they're looking for. And are they responsive? And she's always passing these tests, but they're always checking because they know that dementia can have its onset just like that. It can be clear as a bell, one instance, and then all of a sudden the plaque or whatever it is that affects the brain and the neurons clicks in, and then all of a sudden we've got a damaged person on our hands. And so they're looking for this twice a week to see if there's anything changing. But so far, so good. We don't have it in our family. We don't expect to see it here. But it's just one of the tests that goes on, and it's one of the things that got me thinking about this. So with the physical elements going on, dementia can take hold at any moment. It doesn't just all of a sudden, just move into it slowly, although it can. There can be signs of growing dementia. It'll get worse that way. And so that's how dementia crawls too. But sometimes it can be just like a switch going off. So we're looking for either of those going on. We don't have any of that happening. But in society, in our culture, we have the signs of what we want to call social dementia. And social dementia has become an active field of study now. And let me read this to you from Johns Hopkins. The concept of social dementia using the framework of neurodegenerative disease to describe societal behavior is an emerging topic of discussion in sociology and cultural studies, often pointing to widespread collective cognitive-like impairments. So it's not just happening in one individual, it's happening across a group of people. And so they're all coming up with these cognitive afflictions and deficiencies all at the same time. So while not a formal medical diagnosis for a society, the current cultural trends exhibit behaviors that mirror the symptoms of dementia, such as memory loss, disorientation, impaired judgment, and social isolation. Gee, sounds like it's a description of what's going on in our world today across our population generally. Now, you've got some people, outliers, that don't fall into this category, but it sure seems that we have at least a good 50% of our population right now is falling into this social dementia and this disorientation that's going on. Let's talk about this a little bit. So the first item they talked about was memory loss. So right now you will see across the board that something can happen in 1 month, and then the next month people don't have any way of maybe recalling that and putting it into cognitive relation to something that just happened right now. They can't reference something from the past to something that currently happened right now and say cause, effect, cause, effect. They're missing that. They can't put those two together. So what they're ending up with in this memory loss, they're getting these facts that are either becoming distorted or conflated, and then they can't put the whole timeline together. They get confused, and this is all part of this dementia type of exhibition that's going on. And so then that also then leads to disorientation. And so that's the second thing that they're seeing here in the social dementia, disorientation. We have so many large groups of people have no idea how we came to the situation we're in right now because they've never followed the past. They never studied history. They don't know how they got to even be maybe accepted into school because somebody else did it for them. They become so disoriented. They're just following a path that maybe somebody else laid out for them. And then they get off of that. They don't know how to get back onto it. And so they need guideposts. They need handlers. They can't function on their own. They're too disoriented. They can't put two and two together. They have impaired judgment. We see this across the board right now with large groups of our population, and it actually jumps between age groups. And so some of these things are messed up for our young people. They're also messed up for a lot of our older people who have kind of left the room of reality, this impaired judgment realm. So people that they describe as this are following these social manias like the nose rings, the blue hair. Now, a lot of these things are style points with certain groups, but they really have an overlay of this societal normalizing of these different behaviors that become part of this impaired judgment in this dementia of this cultural group. So there's things that go with it. There's abbreviated thought processes that go with this particular group because they're affected by other things at the same time. So it's an overlay of a problem which causes like a secondary problem, or it's more like a prophylactic. It keeps you from getting to the problem immediately, but it's still going to be there. It doesn't matter whether you got that barrier there or not. It's going to break down, and we're going to have this bad thing happen. So we got memory loss, disorientation, impaired judgment, and then the last thing that exhibits out of this social dementia is social isolation. Now, this is exhibited right now across the spectrum. And this isn't just for young people. This is for older people. This is something that I've experienced also in my own age group and things like that. And these are people that are not dating. They're not procreating, the younger folks. They're involving themselves more with pornography, video games, personal, type of involvement type of thing, not group behaviors. The guys are into the porn and the Xbox games, and the women are more into the TikTok and these types of things, these other social media type things that they're so attracted to. But this is just self-isolating. They're not even joining other groups that they might agree with because they're afraid that somebody there might disagree with them in that moment, and that may cause them to be triggered. So this is where we're at. People are isolating socially because they're afraid to be triggered. And they're afraid to have their feelings exposed, and they're afraid to have these false assumptions that they've made be exposed, and that they can be ridiculed for that, which they understand is probably due them because of their problematic thinking, but they don't want to undergo it. You understand that? It's like the kid who's afraid gets a tummy ache on test day. He doesn't want to go to school and look like a fool and not be prepared for the exam, so he'd rather stay home and lie that he doesn't feel good and he's sick so he can miss the test, hoping that maybe it'll go away, and it won't. But this is what people are kind of doing with their social lives. They're not even going out in groups. They're not joining their families. They're not joining other, friends from work. Happy hour, going out for a drink after work on a Friday. People don't do that anymore. They're self-isolating, and they're not joining in with these groups. And so they're not branding themselves as part of a group, and so they don't feel connected. And so we're losing all this connective tissue in our society, and this is all part of this social dementia that's going on. So hopefully that's not too much textbook action going on. But the media has a lot to blame with this whole thing, and that's pretty obvious to see when you can see that the media bias is there, the gaslighting by antagonists, calling everybody all these names and things like that, the Hitler, the communist, all this, type of stuff, this tyrant, the no kings, all these things. None of it was true, but it scratched an itch that these people were feeling collectively across their mania that's going on. Educators, our school system is totally to blame on this stuff. Our teachers, trying to pre-train our students to a certain way of thinking and method in how they go about problem solving or answering a question. So the educators have a lot to blame on this, and so do the parents. Oh my gosh, we have probably one of the least qualified societal groups of parents this country has ever seen right now are being called mom and dad all across this country. Now, it's not altogether their fault because their parents screwed up. My age group, okay? We wanted to be friends. We wanted to be popular. We wanted to be buddies with the kids. Big mistake. You got to be the boss. You got to be the parent. You can be friends and you can be cozy when you get older and they get their own home. But in the meantime, we're not going to have any of that shit going on. So, girls are being lied to. Boys are exhausted and confused. It used to be that when the girls were growing up and there was a song by Cyndi Lauper, girls just want to have fun. And that was how it used to be, that the girls were out doing fun things. They were getting stuff together, and all they were thinking about was maybe Friday or Saturday night and going to the movie with their boyfriend or something like that. And this is the things that they thought about. So they worked all week to get ready for that. So the girls just want to have fun, and the boys just want to be boys. For gosh sakes. You ever ask a young man, what he thinks about something? He'll say, I don't know. He's not lying. He doesn't know. He doesn't care. It's just, they just want to be boys. They just want to learn and challenge things and take extra risks and things like that and accomplish things and get by on it and do what boys do, test barriers. Girls have fun. Boys want to test barriers and develop strength and confidence. That's all being taken away by the societal dementia. So I say we have to declare an emergency on our social media and mainstream medias. We got to get law and order back into steam. It has to be in vogue before all of everything that we have built around us just sort of disappears into this sort of chalky gray background with no real color or luster to it. Sort of like, the old Batman movies with Gotham City. We're seeing it going on in New York. The apathy there is so bad. Give New York another year or so, the troubles are going to be so bad, you're not going to be able to understand it. You're going to cancel all your plans of going to New York. It's just going to be too dangerous to be there. Forget about going to Broadway. Watch it online or something like that. It's not worth the trip of going in there and risking your family and your safety. So with all this sort of apathy and social dementia going on, and the educators having sort of abandoned their responsibilities with so many of our students right now, we've got graduation season is coming back upon us here 2026. And it's been stated before that at least 60%, better than half of our graduating seniors in our major cities can't read. Can't read at a third grade level. How are they getting by? They're getting by with these and videos. They're not reading things anymore. They're letting people read to them. or they're letting the AI do it for them because they're not reading. They can't figure out the big words. They have hard time figuring out the small words. Run, Spot, run. Dick and Jane. Stuff I had when I was 5 or 6 years old. So the students are going to be given a graduation diploma here in a couple months. And some people say it's 60% can't pass a basic GED exam. Now, they're given a high school diploma, but they couldn't sit down on graduation day and pass a basic GED exam in their state because they're unqualified. They haven't learned. And the education system is just pushing them through because the numbers are growing. They got to keep moving them through because it's all about the dollars. So if the one study says 60% can't do it, let's just say that only 35% can't do it. I'll take it down to about half of that number. If we have a graduating class of seniors right now and even 35% can't pass a GED exam, what are we going to do if we end up in a war? What are we going to do with these people that are going to have to fight for new jobs out in the workplace right now, and they can't even read to get by? What kind of a product are we going to be getting? What kind of quality control are we going to be looking at? What kind of marriage rate are we going to have? Are we going to be having children? What's happening? What's going on? Where's the interest line? So I would say that we need to have a new rule on a national basis right now that, when you get these high school kids graduating, you ever played a basketball game called Horse or Pig, where the first person, or two people would play, or three people, whatever, the first person would take a challenging shot from somewhere on the court. If he made it, then everyone else had to take the shot from the same place. If they missed it, they would get a letter. It would be, if they're playing pig or horse, they get the first letter, like playing hangman. And so when you were going for the win on a game of pig or horse or whatever it was, if you were winning and you did the shot and then your competitor missed it, on the last letter, you have to come back and what we call prove it. So if you make it and your opponent misses it, you have to come back and make it again to end the game. If you can't prove it, you got to earn that letter again all over again. So I say we need to do the same thing with our graduating seniors, that in order for them to get that diploma and walk across that stage, they should all have a defining moment to where they get to sit down and take a GED exam to prove that they merit their graduation. We can't trust the schools. Look at what they've done. Look at the product that they've come out with here the last 40 years. Do you really want to keep putting your future into the hands of these folks who can't even figure out who's a girl, who's a boy, in which bathroom they should be able to use, or a ton of other things, or that decide upon themselves that a 13-year-old girl needs to have her breast tissue removed? This is messed up. Who in the hell is leading this? Who in the hell is going to stop it? It's going to have to be you. It's going to have to be me. And it's going to have to be everybody else so we can get around here. Because this isn't going to end until somebody says, stop the madness. We can't keep going this way. This won't end well. This goes against God's design, and it goes against our own natural order. Let's stop this. Let's get back to it. This is what purity is about. So, in the meantime, think about this. Look around you. See if you don't see other examples of this. And if you can think of things you want to talk about, send me a note. I'm really interested in this because this is quickly not only through our culture, but the worldwide culture. And this is, I think, what the one world order people want. And this is what we have to be looking out for, because you have to be smart about what's happening to us so we can fight back against it and be aware of it. So in the meantime, I love you, and I'll be back.